Why is it that when anyone tries to crack down on illegal migration, the policy is called racist, inadvertently implying that the person who comes up with it is also a racist?
It's a completely different thing to say we are going to reach in to people who are lawfully here and start removing them. They are our neighbours.
That proposal is immoral, to deport people who are already here if they don't pass more stringent rules. Do you think it's a racist policy?
Well, I do think it is a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is.
Of course, they're referring to Reform UK's potential illegal immigration policy. And then, of course, the Labour Party came up with something not dissimilar. People chucking the R word around like confetti. Here's Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's latest pitch to the nation.
On Monday, I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times. Today, I want to tell you why. Across Europe, asylum claims are falling, but in Britain, they are rising. In the last 4 years, 400,000 people claimed asylum here. Over 100,000 are housed and supported at taxpayers' expense, putting huge pressure on local communities.
Wow, can't wait to hear what the offer is on Monday. And this morning, Shabana Mahmood was asked on Sky News whether she'd been panicked into a racist system, i.e. the Danish one, a plan which she is looking to implement. Have a listen.
How do you respond to people who say that you're being panicked into a racist immigration policy?
I reject that entirely. I am the child of immigrants. My parents came to this country legally in the late 60s and the early 70s. This is a moral mission for me. I can see that illegal migration is creating division across our country. I can see that it is polarising communities across the country. I can see that it is dividing people and making them estranged from one another. I don't want to stand back and watch that happen in my country. What is happening with our illegal migration system is this is a broken system. It's not right-wing talking points or fake news or misinformation that is suggesting that we've got a problem. I know because I have now seen this system inside out. It is a broken system. We have a genuine problem to fix. People are angry about something that is real. It is my job, therefore, to think of a proper solution to this very real problem.
Great answer. She's saying that basically she's going to crack down on illegal immigration. And she mentioned about following the Danish model, which has acted as a deterrent and slashed illegal immigration. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, responded.
Some of the measures, I say some are gimmicks, which won't work. Some of these are little steps in the right direction. For example, reassessing asylum claims for people who've arrived legally every few years. Fine, that's not a bad idea. We'll support that. But on its own, it's not enough. And we would go much further. We would say for illegal immigrants, they should not be able to claim asylum at all. So there won't even be any need to reassess their asylum claim. They won't be getting it in the first place.
Interesting. Well, look, I'm afraid, unless Article 3 of the ECHR, protection from persecution, and Article 8, the right to a family life, unless they are removed from the equation, and by the looks of it, the only real way to do that is to leave the convention, then I'm afraid the Danish system or any system won't work here. And Shabana Mahmood fails to point out that the reason the Danish system works is because in Denmark, they have third-party agreements, one of them, ironically, with Rwanda, which the Labour Party called a gimmick. As much as I would like to believe Shabana Mahmood means business, unfortunately, there are too many holes in it to stop it from sinking.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just living credit. You know, whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward, and that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
So I'm joined now by former Labour advisor Stella Chantakadu. Stella, I mean, let's get real. We know that these are the great ideas and all that, but you can just keep appealing and appealing and appealing. I've heard human rights lawyers and immigration lawyers tell me that. I've listened to them say it, and even telling me that they advise their clients to do exactly the same thing. The Danish system has come a cropper with some of that as well.
Denmark is signed up to the ECHR as well.
Yes, I know.
Article 3 and Article 8 would not have any impact on the announcement that the full announcement is tomorrow, but there have been some changes that are already being trailed. One of them is that every 30 months, the application of an asylum seeker will be reconsidered to see whether the country that they came from is safe and they can return, which is what Denmark is doing as well. And also they have made it so that they have to wait at least 20 years to get a permanent settlement.
Yeah.
And they will also make it so that you can only get permanent settlement if you personally are persecuted, which means that if you are persecuted personally, you will not be able to bring your family members on the same visa. So these changes will not be impacted by Article 3 or Article 8, because the cases that you are referring to, Nana, are where we are trying to deport someone and then bring this up. So this would be someone, for example, who already has asylum seeker, already has a refugee status, and, for example, they have committed a crime, and then you try to deport them. So they would be irrelevant to this specific thing. Now, other countries as well, these are very, very similar to, we look at Denmark as an example of a country that has a very strict asylum system, and we are saying that we want to do the things that they're doing. Well, this is how they did it.
Yeah, but Denmark are actually within the EU, so of course they can send people back to the country, the first country that they landed in. They have returns agreements, obviously, with all those who are in the EU, so that's one thing. Secondly, after those 2 years, they can use appeals, they can continue, and you know that how difficult our system is, how easy it is for people to continue to appeal. So that's not stopped. People will carry on doing that. And I know, having listened to many immigration lawyers telling me that all they do, they even advise their own clients or their trainees or whoever they're working with to appeal. So the whole merry-go-round of appeals will continue. And the other side of it is also returning someone to a third country. Well, we don't have a third country to return anybody, and the Labour Party were initially set against that and called Rwanda a gimmick. Yet in Denmark, the Danish actually send people to Rwanda. They use Rwanda as a third country.
Well, what you're referring to there is the fact that we need to have a very good relationship with our neighbours, and we need to be able to have agreements with them, which is exactly what this Labour government is doing, right? And in terms of Rwanda, the reason why...
Who have they got good relationships? Sorry, hang on, no. Who have they got good relationships with in Europe? If you're saying that they should do that, then they don't really if they had a third country.
I'm saying that this shows that they need to have good relationships with our borderline countries. In terms of Denmark that you're saying about Rwanda, the reason why Denmark has a functioning asylum system is not because they are able to send people back to Rwanda. This is not the reason why they have a good asylum system. They reject them at the source, which is what these new changes will be doing. So rejecting people when they come here. So if they come by regular means, meaning if they come by boat, then they will have to, there will be all of these restrictions.
So once they've been rejected, what stops them from making a claim and getting one of the human rights lawyers on their case? So we've rejected them, then they'll file a claim, won't they?
If there is a rule that says if you came here by irregular means, i.e. by a boat, then you will not be considered, you will not be given permanent residency.
Yeah, but you'll be able to make a claim there against that, though. You might be able to say no.
That is a rule at the source. That is exactly what Denmark is doing. So that's before you get your asylum system. That is a law. You cannot have a lawyer if that is something that is enshrined in British law. Then that is what the court is looking at, right?
Well, we shall see about
that.
The
ECHR, that's how Denmark is doing it. So what I'm saying is what Saban Mahmoud will be doing tomorrow, that is something that is going to have parliamentary supremacy in the court because it's going to be a law. This is not going to be a decision by a bureaucrat. What the lawyers are appealing to that you're referring to is a decision by a bureaucrat, a decision by a civil servant. That is what the lawyer is appealing to. Now, is there going to be a challenge against the government by some immigration rights group? I do not know. Maybe there will be, but that is a very separate issue.
Yeah, there will. No, there'll be challenges. There'll be legal challenges as ever, because there's no way of really stopping those. If you leave the ECHR, then you can do all of that. But unfortunately, because it's also enshrined into British law, isn't it? So it's not so easy as you're saying. But again, we don't have a third country to send people to.
There is parliamentary sovereignty, there's parliamentary supremacy. When Parliament enacts a law, Parliament can enact a law that says whatever the previous law said, now we are enacting a new one. They can totally do that. And there is any court that's worth its salt would throw that kind of case out the window.
All right. Well, there's many cases that weren't thrown out of the window, like somebody who claimed that they, because of chicken nuggets and stuff like that.
You know what I mean? That was being challenged. These are decisions by bureaucrats that are being challenged, not
Stella,
parliamentary decisions.
Stella, this is
parliamentary law.
If I genuinely believed that Shabana Mahmood was coming out with something that was wonderful, amazing, I'd be 100% behind her. And I'm 100% behind her if anything she does makes a bit of difference. But the thing is, there are other bits of the Danish system where, for example, you can't bring anyone, you can't bring your family with you immediately. And if you bring some dependents, they have to be at least 24 years old. You can't have a criminal conviction and things like that. And I'm not hearing all of that in Shabana Mahmood's plan.
They may actually announce all of these things, all of these, the policies that you are, and I agree with you. I think they sound sensible to me, and I believe that they are being considered, especially the ones. I think it's a very big problem about family members, because that is where often you will have people who will be harder to integrate because they will not speak English. They will need to have support throughout their life. So this is something that's being considered very, very seriously.
And the other side of the policy was a sort of the ghetto package, which was part of the policy, where targeted residential areas with high proportions, they had to have a set sort of proportion of Westerners or people who are culturally or whatever Danish, and then they could integrate and have a certain level. And they wanted to keep that as a manageable level. Now, I don't happen to think that's racist. I think that's fair enough, because you don't want ghettos where you end up with people in silos of different. You want everyone integrated. So do you think that's a racist policy? Because I think that's part of the thing that people are calling racist.
I agree with you that there needs to be. I agree that it is a problem when you have ghettos, and there are several reasons why that happens, right? But I do think that it's quite difficult to have a policy that will not be too disruptive for people's lives, and also have the state capacity to do that, right? Because while I don't think that it is racist to say we want communities to be integrated, it's the opposite, actually. You want everybody to live together. De facto, if you then are going to look at the council estate or look at a specific, just one street, how do you do that without making people feel like they're being targeted? Like, for example, imagine being a child growing up on a specific street and you are surrounded by people from your own ethnicity, and that is not by your choice. and then you're being told your family is being removed, you're being evicted, and you're being moved somewhere where you're not close to your family, friends, you're not close to you no longer go to the same school you were going to, you will feel like you're being targeted unfairly, right?
I don't get to that point. They just make sure that, I think in Denmark, they make sure it doesn't get to that point, which is, I agree with that. I think it's absolutely wise. The indigenous population, you should have there should be no area that is all one different race than the people of that country. There should be an integration, and that way you can, develop similar cultural values. I think that works. A much better idea. Stella Santakedu, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. She's a former Labour advisor. Right.